Savior forever, he plunged me to victory beneath the cleansing flood. Burdens are Hi everybody, David Wesley here, coming to you live from my basement office / studio. I'll give people a minute or two to continue arriving from wherever they are. Sorry, I couldn't really give a definite time for when I was going to do this. This is the consequence of having young children to consider. Thankfully, though, I'm not working weekends anymore for now, so at least I know that I have my Saturdays and Sundays available. But it's really nice weather outside, and after my boys finish their nap, we may have a quick supper and then go for a walk or hit the beach or something where we are in beautiful Cobourg, Ontario. So the reason why I wanted to make a video this week is that it's been a big week for my YouTube channel, like really big. I put out the evolution of worship music, and it's taken off. Right now, I think it's at 300,000 views, which in 7 days, which is absolutely mind-blowing for me. Let me see here. Oh, we're getting there. 298,000. Just a number anyway. So right now I am live casting simultaneously to YouTube and to Facebook. I will try to take some questions later. Could be a little bit difficult to do. It's kind of hard to read the chats and everything at the time. So there's just a couple of things about the video I wanted to address. First of all, thanks for watching it. I first came up with the idea last year. I really am a big fan of Pentatonics, especially their earlier stuff. And they had a video called The Evolution of Music that they put out. Actually, let me just check your feedback, guys, and let me know if the sound is okay. Before I go too far. Here we go. It's weird because if I try to actually look at the video myself, it's behind by about 15 seconds or so. All right, loud and clear, bro, I hear. Okay, so like I said, I was inspired by the video by Pentatonics called The Evolution of Music. It's 5 people. There's 5 people singing and beatboxing in my video, and one person holding up the sign. And when he joins in at the end, he's actually just lip syncing along. I really enjoyed how at the early stages of music, they kind of skipped over centuries, and then they went sort of decade by decade, and then the time between the songs that they were doing, the time of release, that is, it kept speeding up and speeding up. So it's very similar to the way that time seems to move in our society. It seems like things are moving very quickly. Worldwide communication with the internet and whatnot. It seems like you wake up in a brand new world every day. It's exciting. It can be a little bit scary, and new music is coming out every way. So for people that thought I didn't spend enough time in earlier centuries looking at hymns, that's why. It was a format that I was following. It's something that seemed to make sense because the style for many of the older hymns was fairly consistent. It seemed like there are people that have recorded and performed hymns much better than me, and if you want to dwell in the 18 or 1900s, there are many places you can find that. Just in terms of the process, once I came up with the idea, I had to write the arrangement. So what I wanted to do was basically kind of tell a story through this medley of songs. I wasn't sure how long it was going to be or where in time I was going to start. So I actually started with just a list of songs, and then I looked at which of the which parts of those songs could maybe just with their lyrics sort of meld into one another to tell a bit of a story. So you might get a bit of the third verse of Mighty Fortress Is Our God, a bit of the chorus of a different song. So it does kind of go all over the place, and I might not have chosen the best part of a song, or even my favorite part of the song. It had to be a part of the song that worked thematically with the lyrics. It had to be a part that would work transition wise between all the songs. So it wasn't easy by any means. So once I had figured out sort of what portions of the songs I wanted to use, I used my handy arrangement software called Sibelius that I've been using for about 18 years now. I started in version 2. It's now, I still have version 7, but I think it's like version 8 or version 9 now. And I mapped out just the melody, deciding what keys I was going to transition to and from, and some tempo issues as well, from beginning to end. And I could see that it was going to be about 7.5 minutes. What I ended up doing afterwards, because the melody is just obviously one little part of a 5-part a cappella performance. When it came to filling out the harmonies and what I was going to do regarding rhythm with the beatboxing, that's where things got a little bit tricky. So I actually started writing the full arrangement starting in 1922. I believe that was the year, or 1929, whichever, for Turn Your Eyes Upon Jesus. And I went from that point forward and pretty much just wrote and wrote and wrote. Last summer, I went to visit my parents up in Northern Ontario, and I was up until 1 o'clock in the morning sitting at my parents' kitchen table, working on it, blasting it in my earbuds. Might sound kind of boring, but staying up late night arranging music is actually one of my favorite things to do. Now that I have to be up at 5:15 every morning to go work in the operating room, it's a little harder to do that. So I basically finished by September of last year with the songs from 1922 moving forward. Now, the reason I started there is because I really didn't know what I was going to do with the arrangement for the earlier hymns, because as many people have pointed out in the YouTube comments, I could be 100% authentic and do Gregorian chant. I could do Renaissance polyphony. I could try to dig up what the very, very original song sounded like. Or, everybody has a favorite, like Amazing Grace, but the version you're familiar with probably sounds quite different than how people sung it the first time around. Even the New Britain tune sounds a little different today than it did originally. So I really struggled with how I was going to do that. I consulted with family and friends. I consulted with Dr. Chris Kayari, who is a music education professor at Purdue University. He wrote an article about me and a case study for his PhD dissertation on my YouTube channel. And pretty sure his suggestion lined up with where I was kind of leaning anyway. And I decided, you know what? Anachronism is okay. I'm not going to do Gregorian chant. I'm not going to sing in Latin or Greek or Coptic or Ethiopic for that matter, because the argument could be made for using those as well. And in terms of the harmony, wasn't going to stay in unison until Martin Luther. I just decided to take the style that I've done for all my other videos and just throw it back in time. It's a decision that I struggled with. I don't think there is a right or wrong way to do it, but that's what I chose. So that's actually what took the longest to do, was really just like going to work, looking after my kids and thinking, okay, I need to make a decision. How am I going to arrange the rest of the song? So I finally finished that off in the winter time. And then it came down to finding time to record it. And it was a challenging arrangement. It stretched me to the very ends of the very limits of what I could do. It was probably a little bit too ambitious. And because I've been so crunched for time, I probably recorded it in too much haste. The quality isn't what I had hoped it would be. But this was something that had been kind of lingering a little too long, and I just wanted to get it over with. You know, I record music for all sorts of different reasons. For me, it is a form of worship, especially now since I'm very recently changed churches. I'm not a worship leader anymore. So that is kind of unfortunate in that it's something that I really enjoy doing. I enjoy leading a team and helping grow musicians and helping engage with the congregation and help them worship on a Sunday morning. But at the same time, what I do on YouTube is very freeing, and there's no constraints on what I do. I can basically do what I want. I mean, the reason why I started this YouTube channel to begin with was because my parents live, 6 or 7 hour drive away, and they really enjoy the things that I make. So a lot of my early stuff I made for them. A lot of stuff isn't visible on the channel anymore. And other people started to listen in, and it just became a place for me to experiment with ideas with my very amateur voice. And, the rest is kind of history. And yeah, we came to the launch of the video last Sunday. Nothing out of the ordinary, but just gradually over the last seven days, the thing took off. So before I take any questions, I just want to address a couple of things that have come up repeatedly in the YouTube comments. Number one, be thou my vision. The number of people that have said that I was somehow dishonest, clickbaiting, misrepresenting, lying, whatever you want to call it, that's not what that hymn is from, and you should have been using Gregorian chant. I already talked about why I didn't use Gregorian chant. Okay. I'm not going to make a reference to a certain politician that's known for being rather dishonest, but you don't have to fact check me. Like, I know that if I put something up there that people can look in Google, they can look in Wikipedia, and they can dispute anything that I've put down there, whether it was a songwriter's name, the year of publication. The year that I put for Be Thou My Vision was kind of just a rough estimate because we don't know. And there's some disagreement in scholars of where the original Old Irish poem came from that led to Be Thou My Vision. So I chose a date, and no, the tune is not that old. I know that. And the tune Slain that I used, it was attached to Be Thou My Vision, a translation of it in the early 20th century. But that tune was already old when it was attached to it. Not 560 old, but old. So the reason I chose that number is because it's the earliest link that I had to a song that is still commonly used in the church today. And I know that there are Catholic, Orthodox, and other traditions that are still using songs that are much older than anything that's used in a Protestant / evangelical context. I'm aware of that, but that is outside of my experience. And this is what I know. Every song in this medley is one that I have sung before, and that I know are could be sung in a church that I would feel comfortable going to. Yeah, and 1225, the words for by St. Francis Assisi for that hymn, I know it wasn't put to that tune until much later. I do understand that. So for everybody that feels that they need to fact check me, I call them the Wawas. WA stands for well, actually, because there's always people that want to chime in and say, well, actually, people, he's wrong. I get it, okay? I made choices. They're 100% intentional, and I'm not trying to deceive anyone. On that same note, the title of the video comes directly from that Pentatonics video, the evolution of music. I chose the evolution of worship music. Had I chosen my favorite worship songs over time, just isn't quite as catchy. Again, I didn't mean it as a clickbaity title. I chose the title as I was writing the arrangement. It wasn't, very calculated. You'll note that the video is not called a comprehensive and historically and contextually accurate survey of music history in the church across all cultures. Yeah, that's not what it's called. It's also not called a history of worship songs used in evangelical Protestant churches as edited by David Wesley. No. There is no title I could have chose that would have been specific enough to encapsulate, the different criteria I use for choosing songs. I understand that Christianity worldwide has, a number of traditions, and in a day when people like to float around the word cultural appropriation, I feel it would be cultural appropriation for me to try to bring in songs from outside of my experience, especially since I don't speak Greek or Latin or Coptic or Ethiopic or even German for the original for A Mighty Fortress. That's just the way it is. This is the medley I created, and there are any hundreds of ways that you could criticize what I didn't include. So if I didn't include your favorite hymn, it's not because I don't think it's good. It's not because I don't think it's important. It's just that I was telling a story, and not everything would have fit in the way that it did. And sticking to chronological order like I did also put some limits on what I could do. Another trend I noticed in some of the comments was people saying how everything went downhill after 1969. And I have tried to reply to a lot of comments. I'm getting a little overwhelmed. I've never had, this much activity on a video in this short a period of time. When I get comments like that, I would like to refer people to some of the videos I made in my No Pro Worship teaching series on contemporary versus traditional. It doesn't have to be versus. I find people do have their preferences and their prejudices when it comes to the era of music that they prefer, and they will project those preferences and actually, I think, be kind of unfair with the examples from the kind that they don't like. So a lot of people were saying that with the newer songs, it's less about Jesus, less about God, and it's all about me, 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 me. Well, what I like to point out to people is that in that great hymn, Amazing Grace, the word God and Jesus don't appear at all. Wretch appears, but sin does not. Nothing about atonement or anything like that. And it is personal. It's John Newton's story. But they take a song like Oceans by that's done by Hillsong and say, oh, it's so self-centered and everything, doesn't even mention God. Well, when I challenge people on the Amazing Grace thing, they say, oh, well, it's obvious that grace is referring to God and the work of Christ on the cross. I think they're giving that song the benefit of the doubt in a way that they would not do for a song, a modern song that they simply don't care for, which is unfortunate. I mean, Oceans isn't the deepest song. That's kind of a funny joke. Oceans isn't the most theologically rich song out there, but if you put it in its context, it fleshes something out. So the idea is that it's told from the perspective of the Apostle Peter, who's called out onto the waters by Jesus and, sinks and is all that. That's the context. So if you want to give the same benefit to that song that you give to Amazing Grace, even though Amazing Grace doesn't talk about the cross, doesn't talk about God or Jesus, it just talks about grace in the abstract. Could have been talking about grace, a woman in grace. I have a good friend named Grace. Please, the standards that you judge songs you don't like, use those with the songs that you do like as well. If what I recommend for Oceans is that you go to your Bible and read the story of Peter walking on water. Read it a couple times, then pray, then listen to Oceans. You don't have to listen to the Hillsong version. You can listen to mine if you want something that's a little more laid back. And just remember that not every worship song needs to be a fully fledged, fully fleshed out sermon in a song. If we showed up at church every Sunday and only sang one song, I think it would be important to make sure that every Sunday you had a song like something like In Christ Alone. that really captures the gospel message in its entirety. But that's not what we do. We sing multiple songs. There is no reason to have every song be a complete sermon in itself. There is room for a song like Oceans if it's sandwiched within songs that provide some context for that. If you just did Amazing Grace, there'd be a lot of questions from a non-believer. What does grace mean? Where does it come from? Where is this hope? These are questions that you'd have to answer for someone that had never heard the song before. So please be fair with some of the modern songs. There are plenty of older hymns that are in the dustbin of history that have been long forgotten. I can think of Southern gospel songs that just talk about how great our mansions and glory will be. You know, there are good songs in every era and bad songs in every era. And the other big question people had was, what's with 1969? Why the lighter? Why the colors? Well, the lighter one is easy to explain. The lighter goes with the song "Pass It On." The first line of "Pass It On," which I don't sing in the medley, again a choice because of transition issues. The first line is, "It only takes a spark to get a fire going." So, you know, it's "Pass It On" has been a Christian campfire song, and it's even leaked out outside of the Christian world to at least Christian-friendly camps. At a summer camp that I worked at, 10 years ago, it was still sung, which is pretty good. That's 50 years. Let's just say 50 years after the fact. So that's what the lighter's all about. The colors for 1969, the colors are just a joke. Okay, it's just a joke. Get over it. It's not. I'm not celebrating Stonewall. I'm not celebrating anything in particular. It was a very eventful, colorful year. People landing on the moon, the invention of ARPANET, the predecessor of the internet. Yes, Woodstock and other, landmark secular music festivals. There's lots of things that happened in 1969, but it's not that year is super special to me. It was just a joke. This whole medley was an offering to God, but it was also an exercise to stretch myself in terms of my writing and singing ability and beatboxing ability. Like, man, that was challenging. And but also it was meant to be fun. So for all of you that are taking this so seriously, relax. 1969 is just a joke. Okay. Now on to the good stuff. When I read through Facebook comments or look at numbers, those aren't my primary concerns. Though it is nice to see people say, you're a great singer. I'm not really, not that great. Or to compliment me on whatever aspect that they like. I'm not going to lie, that does feel good. What I'm more interested in seeing is, this is how God used this song today. I'm so glad YouTube recommended this for me today, because this is the state that I'm in. I'm so glad you did this. This is something that can bring the church together and help reconcile people across stylistic differences. Got lots of messages from people from Kenya, from Indonesia, places like that, in Brazil, saying, we sing these songs too. People just saying, there's quite a few. Some of them are somewhat jokey, like, you shouldn't chop onions around me because he was crying. A number of people said, I'm weeping as I go through this because it reminds me of the things that God has done. And those songs were current in the time that those things happened, or those songs were meaningful for them in that time. So for 1998, when I was in high school, the song Trading My Sorrows, for everybody that says that the modern songs are shallow, Trading My Sorrows is like almost verbatim out of the Bible. I'm pressed but not crushed, persecuted not abandoned, struck down but not destroyed. I am blessed beyond the curse. His promise will endure. His joy is going to be my strength. Though the sorrow may last through the night, his joy comes in the morning. I mean, that's the song. And that's some people's jam. Same thing with Awesome God, or soon, and very soon. that's why I keep making videos, because people are connecting with these songs. Um, People are being reached. There were two comments in particular that said, I'm not a Christian, but I found this really enjoyable. Um, I didn't deliver a sermon to these people, but there is hopefully a seed planted of curiosity and actually the YouTube algorithm, because they took the time to watch 7.5 minutes of this video, because they took the time to hit like or even subscribe or even leave a comment, it's more likely that Christian videos will come across their screen because of that. Maybe it'll be a year down the line, something else will come up on that YouTube recommended video list, and that person could be saved. They could be drawn to a church and become a disciple of Christ. I often joke that my friend Shane had his Christian CDs stolen from his car way back in like 2000 or 2001. I'm waiting for the day when somebody's testimony is, I got saved because I actually took the time to listen to those CDs that I stole from that crappy car back then. Also got a message from a Muslim person who said, I'm an Arab Muslim, and somehow, again, this video came across their YouTube feed. I don't know why. The algorithm is a mystery to me. But again, who knows what seeds have been planted for that. So for everybody that has lavished their praise on me, well, I want that to bounce off to me and go straight to God, because God deserves all the glory. And kudos to all the songwriters, living and dead, whose work I used to create this medley. Obviously, I couldn't do it without them. I'm not much of a composer. I am a rearranger. I like to think that I take songs and improve them. That really depends on the perspective of the person listening. Yeah, so I am just blown away. This video is just, it's blowing up like crazy, and I won't lie. I suspected that just the format of the video does sort of draw people in. I have the signs here that I held up during the video. Just cardstock. I did think of just putting text overlay on in the bottom middle box of the guy that's wearing this hoodie, actually. But it seemed like I could make more of a connection with a physical object. As awkward as it was to flip over some of those pages, creates a bit of anticipation. Oh, what song is going to be next? Like, oh, what year are they going to jump to? And people might have expectations of what song is going to come with what year. And some people expressed their disappointment of that their favorite song didn't make it. I'm sorry. I couldn't do them all. It's 21 songs out of tens of thousands of songs I could have chosen. But I think, and also maybe people were wondering, like, oh, is he going to drop one of them? Or I just thought, I wasn't trying to be clever with the cards. I just thought that it made it a little bit more real and sort of drew people in a bit. Yeah, so that's kind of all that I wanted to talk about. There were, well, I guess there were some concerns about the quality of my recording. Well, this is the room that I record in. It's just my basement. It's not treated. Just to give you an idea of some of the things I have to do. I usually record to my laptop, so it's not quite as loud. But even right now, if I if I turn off my noise suppression here in the recording, you can hear the buzzing of the computer. Technology is great, but when I do have to do things like noise reduction on my recordings because of that I record under studio, that can lead to some degradation of the sound. It's that simple. It's not something about, because finances, and also recording at home. Go to bed and I have like squeeze in a little time without. So anyway, I will try to go to to Facebook. I have had a couple of requests from people for their own singing groups to have this complicated. Basically, any of the songs after 19 are still unrecorded, right? YouTube is kind of its own ecosystem as far as copyright goes and copyright. I think over the years, publishers understood that cover version actually bring attention to the song. There have been some songs that weren't discovered until somebody big covered them. Good example, Father. I actually covered that before Chris Thomas. So yeah, so YouTube is one thing, but the licensing that would be required to distribute the sheet music, that's all. Other, if I get a copyright strike on happen, that's one thing. I don't want to be out my distributing sheet music. So my apologies to the worship pastors asking for me. Now, for educational purposes, sure, talking about if you want to just example of something, that could be a little different. There are stipulations in fair use education, but in terms of the distributing the sheet music somewhere else, it's a little bit tricky. I'm Canadian, so I'm saying sorry. Okay. Saying the sound is okay. So this has also been a common question. This one, Brian Choi says, "How can I be part of the virtual choir?" Well, that's easy. You don't really become part of the virtual choir. You project. So when I come out with my next I will make announcements on YouTube, Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, everywhere. It's actually pretty sad. I think I have Sing David Wesley. But yeah, I will always make any announcements in the window for submitting. Always always comes with very thorough instructions about how to produce. It seems I have to add new instructions every time because something that I thought might be followed. Some, let's see here. Dan says, "Hi David, I love your musical enthusiasm. And you appreciate the words of encouragement, backing me up. Context of Amazing Grace versus something like, oh Susan, those walls need to try making." I have to be very careful. You know, the temptation to respond to every negative comment with a snarky remarks. And yeah, I did say exactly that. By all means, provide the proper list of songs that there's when you're talking about things that somebody should have done, the the possibilities are endless. Let's see here. You know what I really should do? Have moderator chats. Hi, Susan from Texas. Okay, here's a very deep theological question. Hoodies. How many hoodies do I? It's not because I'm spending a lot of money. It's because I don't throw anything. the original, the original Wilfrid Laurier hoodie that I had in my video, still have it, and had that since I think. I still have my original Adidas tearaway pants from 19. So that gives you an idea. So cool. Okay. Bye, Gabby. Apologies for the sound. All right, so I'm going to close the Facebook window here, guys. Probably. Phone. Okay. From Uganda and Brady Bennett said, "Doesn't this make you a celeb?" It's funny. Before I posted this video, I had 53,000 subscribers, about 12 million views. So I don't know what the standard is for being an internet celeb. I have been recognized twice. Once was by a patient when I was, aren't you? And then another time I went to a conference back at Wolf, go in and register, and I was caught by a student saying to his friend, "Do you know who that is?" Yeah, only happened twice. Not famous and don't really want. Here. So I don't want to mispronounce your name, but Mathung Murray says, "Hi, David. Here again. This might be a good time to talk a bit about your majestic voicing arrangement. Tips, please." Wow, that is. Thank you. That is a tall order to try to distill my arranging style in. Based on some of the comments, someone said that my simple and interesting, and another said this is terrible. It's all in the same key. 11 key changes in the medley and 17 meter changes. I don't know how. I don't even know where to start. You look at some of my other solo videos. Format I usually have, I have a bass and I have sort of background singers that are they're usually providing a bit of what would be instrumental accompaniment. Song. Not that they're necessarily trying to imitate what's are, but they're there as a so that for a purpose. They could be saying or sometimes they might have some more counterpoint kind of stuff like listen to my smile, especially coming the guys in the, and then of course there's the melody person, and I call them alto and tenor, but there's below, like the third above person is where kind of striped hoodie. So that's fairly consistent across things. That being said, there are certain songs where the formula, and I didn't use this one because, like I said, that format is meant to replace instrumental accompaniment. So for this video, when there was no accompaniment in place for the hymns, having that is really things get quite. Um, if you want to see what one of my favorite videos, one of my, what am I trying to say? Of my own videos, some of my favorites are Worlds Apart and Sinking Deep. Those have some studying. It's not something that I can share in a very quick. Well, thanks, L. Vincent, for saying that Harmony was a great representation. People that said that that's not how they would have done it back then. I know. I want to open up a store called Anachronisms Arts. I will put this medley. So Carla Conscious asked, how come I'm not a worship leader? Actually, last time I not going to say anything ill of anybody. I was there for about 6 years from this town, probably the longest I've been in longest I've been in school. But yeah, if you look at my no pro ship training videos, the photo that I had, it's God's people deserve leaders to grow. Felt that that's where I grow. Felt it was not a place that was challenging to grow. I think it's really potential of. But yeah, moved on to a different place. It'll be a time before I'm leading worship anywhere else, unless I do like. But you know what? I'm gonna enjoy the time learning, sing, um, being a good follower, being a good in leader. One of the temptations I have, because I have some knowledge, I do have some uh, credibility outside of my own for some knowledge. So I do face a temptation to make suggestions to help people's job is better. But when you go into a new place, kind of have to bottle those things up until there's a trust. Okay, scrolling through. Love from Johannesburg, South Africa. Yes, Salia says, I can't believe people went to check the song so they could leave. That's what people do. Internet. Like I said, the YouTube algorithm is interesting. There were a number of like Psalms only people that showed up. Well, they also didn't have YouTube church too. Hawaii Tongi says, I'm fed up with abuse problems within. Still love Jesus. Trust back. Same, and you know what? That is a problem. Jesus promised that there would be among the sheep that false teachers trying to all repeat, trying to draw off disciples after themselves, or even legit Christian leaders stumble. Breaks my heart. but Jesus loves his church. So should you in place, but there is a body of believers God has promised um, needs of his people. And one of those needs. Carla, what do you think is the most theological song? Pass. Um, that could go a long way. There are songs that are a little bit more didactic that try to explain doctrine, but there's also songs that try to cover story, like "So Will I," 100 billion times by don't like. They actually use the word evolve in that too. Not sure what they mean. I'm not comfortable with it because of the context that it's used in. I don't think it's a word, but it's a song that talks about from before creation and zooms down to the belief. So can't really answer that question, but in terms of anything that I've done, I think in Christ alone. Citro asks, Citro Gaming, hi, by the way, random question. Is there a Beatles influence on my music? Interesting question, especially in light of that's out called Yesterday. So sort of a what if movie of what happened if it existed and their music didn't exist. I think if you took the Beatles out of history, it wouldn't just be the Beatles missing; it would everything that they kind of butterfly. So yes, I'm influenced by the Beatles. Anything that came afterwards is by the Beatles, even if it's people acting against the Beatles and doubling on tradition. Sounds like my boys finished their so. Uh, Johnny Tep. Johnny Tep says, I don't think songs should be theology centered, but if it's a worship song, it should have God in this. What happens a lot of times with that man contemporary songs. Yeah, I agree in principle, but there are also some songs, some psalms that are self-centered, sort of oh, enemy getting me, and God has forgotten me, and then it has the turnaround at the very end, but God. So I think again, in context, sandwiched in between the right songs, you can have a song that is and and not specifically done. I have a video in my pro series called Six Purposes of Work, and I think if you're accomplishing those purposes in the course of service, you're good. You don't have to cover all the single songs. Once you're freed from that, it opens up a lot of possibilities. Just have to make sure that your song selection. Nora says one interesting thing is that a lot of songs that are thought of as traditional now were criticized back when they came. Same argument. This is so true. I'd say the same thing about that hymns were sung out of a hymn book. Say you can't sing to God out of a book. The complaint I hear now and read an article about today was that a congregation can't sing to a projector screen. Somehow sacrilegious. Like, how are people supposed to song if they don't have the notes in front of them? It's, hinting the decline of literacy and culture, and how nobody can sing harmony anymore. It's all just and those things may be true. But how did people learn songs for the printing press, for standardized music notation? People learn song in community. People learn song around the campfire. Somebody would come along and sing a song, and they would pass those. That's folk music. That's how music gets transmitted across cultures. It's person to person, and now we have different ways of sharing music person to person beyond the written book. We have the internet. So many ways to pass songs. So there are some strategies churches could use to make it easier for people to learn new songs. They could determine boxing, telegraphing when it's very obvious of what punch is going to come next, jab or cross, or in telegraph new songs. You can your social media or and let people, hey, we're introducing this new song next. Check it out on or whatever, and people could live with that song for a week and then sing them Sunday with brothers and sisters. How much better would that be showing up given a song cold turkey um, for the surprise? But I don't know. Um, I'm not gonna talk about certain questions. Yeah, there are some problems with. Hi, Donnie Pearson. Wires. A lot of people ask me to. Okay. A lot of people do ask me for specific song requests. I have a list about a mile long that I would like to get done and try to suggest. There's kind of a limited subset of songs that I can. I have limited vocal range. It's any song where he has to dip below this note, sound a little bit awkward. So there's lots of reasons why I can't do certain songs. I'm very sorry. Asking how do I work? Oh, okay, here's a good question. When will I finish No Pro Worship? Well, it's not a question of finishing, question of starting. So for those of you that don't know, I did um, pretty much weekly every Friday last year a teaching series worship ministry. It really didn't gain a lot of traction. My videos were far more often training videos that could just wasn't very sustainable. But who knows in the future if there's a topic that really catches my imagination, do that. Okay, so it looks like I've caught up with the comments there. Very sorry about the sound cutting out. I think. Oh, my boys. Second. Hey on. Hey on. Can I come here for a sec? Here. Here's a treat. Guys, that is video. People are watching. Oh?
Hello.
This is my son Theon. I know, don't be shocked with the blonde hair and blue eyes. Dutch. And here is Desmond. Oh, can you say hi to everybody?
Hi.
Yeah. Do you guys want to tell them what your favorite song is? What's your favorite song?
I don't know. Jesus loves me.
Jesus Loves Me? What about the song from Vacation Bible School? Sing that one? No? What? Hang on, don't stick out your tongue. You guys know any of the songs from my from the last video that I made? Like Our God. Sing Our God is an Awesome God?
God is awesome. God He ways from heaven and God
With wisdom.
How and oh God is an
awesome
God.
Good job, Desmond. Other ones? Our God is the Lion.
No. ABCs.
You know more songs than. So you guys don't want to sing any?
A B C D E F G H I J K L N O P Q R X W X and Y and Z. Now I know my ABCs. Next time.
Yay! Good job. You want to say bye to everybody?
Bye.
Bye. Okay, get out of here. Okay, bye guys. I'll be up in a sec. Bye. Oh, I love my boys, but